We have all seen highly intelligent people make deeply irrational, impulsive choices, or perhaps we've made them ourselves. Culturally, we tend to attribute these failures to a weakness of character, assuming the individual simply lacked the moral strength to resist. That assumption is what psychologist Walter Mischel began investigating in the 1960s with his iconic Marshmallow test. While often cited as a tool for predicting future failure, the experiment's original intent was different. Mischel built his laboratory, known as the surprise room, to solve a specific mystery. What is physically happening inside the brain during the moments we successfully resist a temptation? His findings proved that willpower is not a test of moral endurance. It is a measurable cognitive mechanism, a set of mental skills that can be deliberately adjusted. The baseline setup of the Stanford experiment is famous. A preschooler sits alone at a desk with a single marshmallow and a bell. If they ring the bell, they get the treat immediately. If they wait for the researcher to return, they get two. Most children instinctively tried to use brute force willpower. They stared directly at the exposed marshmallow, attempting to fight the urge through sheer focus. This strategy failed almost immediately. Children who locked their attention on the physical temptation typically rang the bell within seconds. White-knuckling fails because staring at a physical temptation overloads the brain. By fixing your attention on the object of desire, you make the wait impossible to endure. To understand why focus leads to failure, we have to look at the brain's biological reality. We operate on two distinct, competing systems when we process rewards. First is the hot system, centered in the limbic system. It's fast and reflexive, demanding immediate gratification regardless of consequences. The counterweight is the cool system in the prefrontal cortex. It handles logic and planning, but is slow to activate and vulnerable to stress. In this biological fight, the hot system always strikes first. Resisting temptation requires a specific strategy to wake up the cool system before the impulse takes over. Mischel demonstrated this by hiding the actual treats and showing the children life-size photographs of the marshmallows instead. The data shifted instantly. While kids looking at real treats lasted less than a minute, those looking at a picture waited up to 18 minutes. This is the power of abstraction. A picture cannot be smelled or tasted, which strips away the hot sensory cues and turns the temptation into a cool piece of informational data. The most successful children replicated this internally. They changed how they thought about the marshmallow, imagining it as a puffy white cloud or a cotton ball rather than a delicious candy. Self-control isn't a battle of wills, it's a battle of perceptions. By changing your mental representation of a trigger, you keep the cool system in control and the hot system at bay. Researchers then tested a more active distraction, Mr. Clown Box. This was a loud, flashing toy designed to talk and seduce the children away from a boring work task. Children relying on spontaneous willpower were easily lured away from their work and failed the assignment. To counter this, researchers used if-then implementation plans. They gave the children a pre-programmed reflex. If the clown talks, then I will look at my paper and say no. This pre-programmed response bypassed the hot system entirely. Because the reaction was decided in advance, the kids ignored the flashing clown automatically. Effective willpower relies on preloading these plans. When you automate your response, you deny the hot system the opportunity to hijack your behavior. Decades later, Mischel tracked these preschoolers into adulthood to see how those minutes in the surprise room impacted their lives. The divergence was massive. The children who used cool strategies at age 4 ended up scoring hundreds of points higher on their SATs and handled stress more effectively in high school. By their 40s, these same individuals maintained lower body mass indexes and showed different patterns in brain areas linked to addiction. This predictability creates a difficult question. If success and health can be traced back to the behavior of a 4-year-old, is our willpower permanently pre-wired at birth? Biological structures, like the DNA discovered by James Watson and Francis Crick, provide our foundation. But genetic pre-wiring is not the same as predetermination. Think of your 20,000 genes as a vast library. These books sit on the shelf, but do not read themselves. Your environment, stress levels, and habits act as the readers. They physically determine which genetic books are pulled and activated. Because the brain's cellular makeup is constantly reshaped by experience, The ability to cool your impulses can be strengthened through practice at any age. A childhood struggle with self-restraint is not a life sentence. By learning to reframe your hot triggers, you can intervene in your own biological trajectory and redirect the outcomes that follow.